Hello, it is Monday, and we want to share over the next week up to my birthday some kind of where God is leading us. And we're going to do this in small pieces. So today, we want to talk about a ministry that God has had on our hearts for a while. And actually, this idea of ministries goes way back for us, but God has been honing and refining it. It's been kind of like he puts the gold in the fire and scrapes off the dross and then puts it back in and keeps refining it. And I think now we are finally in a place where God wants us to be. So we're going to call it Acacia Ministries. And what we're going to say is that Acacia Ministries, that we exist to provide God's healing, God's hope, and God's peace. So Rapha, Tikva, and Shalom to people. And we're looking at it from two sides. Let me back up real quick and talk a little bit about who we're going to work with. But I want Marilyn to talk about what an acacia is first.
So, acacia tree is found in the desert of Israel and the Middle East and Africa, and very arid, dry places. And they're not, they're pretty short trees, but they kind of spread out. The canopy of it spreads out a little bit. And we saw this when we were in Israel in 2011. It is a tree that, you're in the desert, so there's no shade whatsoever, but you come upon this tree. It doesn't offer much, but it's exactly
Just
what you
enough,
need.
yes.
Well, the root system on an acacia, because there is so little water, it can go down for miles searching for that water, and once it finds it, that's how it survives. And so we've found, after seeing that and experiencing it physically, we've found in our walk through so many hardships and just nearly ground down to dust in church ministry and deployments and whatever, that God does provide that acacia in those times of desert in your spiritual walk or whatever hard time you're dealing with. It could be the acacia of an encouragement from a friend, or a sermon that you speaking the truth and a word from God that you need in that moment. Could be a hug from somebody. Could be a song that ministers to your soul. Anything like that is considered a shade in the desert, and from my experience.
So when the Bible talks about in Psalm 1 and Jeremiah as like a tree planted by streams of water, that's what it's talking about. It's not the tree on the riverbank with overabundance. It's the idea of provision in the desert, because that's what this life really is. It is the desert. And so God has brought us to this place where we live now, this house with this acreage, and the thing that we have really felt called to is to be able to bring people here to provide ministry to them, to provide that healing, hope, and peace, that acacia to them. And so one of the aspects of that we want to be is for military families. It is interesting that both Ruthie and Mikey feel called to minister specifically to military families, but we also to chaplains and their families, but just military families in general, because we have found, or at least I have found, that people often, like the soldier will go seek help, or the spouse will go seek help. Often there's very little for the kids. We offer programs for the kids, but sometimes there's not a lot of specific stuff for the kids. And what we really want to focus on is something for the whole family, because
it affects the whole family. Military deployments, especially. Military service is a lot harder and more deep than you realize.
Yes. And it was, we experienced this. The years after my first deployment were extremely difficult. And, we sought help. It's not like we were ignoring help necessarily. I don't, what we didn't get was intensive. So what we want to be able to do is to bring families here to stay with us, and whoever winds up working with us long term, to be here for a week, to be able to do ongoing stuff, and maybe to, over the course of a year, we haven't fleshed all this out yet, but over maybe the course of a year, for them to come back once a quarter regularly and be able to provide for them to be able to come to us, and then to maintain long-term a relationship with them so that we can continue to provide them
the acacia that they need.
That's right. So that's step one. Thank you for joining us today. Come back tomorrow, Tuesday at 2 o'clock, where we can share the other side of Acacia Ministries.